Open Network for Digital Commerce or ONDC promises to provide a level playing field to small merchants. Its proponents say that ONDC will move Indian e-commerce away from the current platform-centric model dominated by market leaders Amazon and Flipkart to an open network.
When the ONDC comes in, there's a possibility that even a very small retailer would be able to be visible immediately on multiple platforms.
The government-backed Open Network for Digital Commerce or ONDC was launched last week in select cities. Mentored by Nandan Nilekani, ONDC is a not-for-profit system which the government believes will be a game changer.
Hi everybody! On 8th of May 2022, the Government of India launched a pilot phase of something called the Open Network for Digital Commerce or ONDC. This is a freely accessible online system for traders and consumers. And the reason why this is very important is because the government intends to break down the digital monopolies and duopolies of giant tech companies like Amazon, Flipkart, Zomato, Swiggy and other companies. On one side, while a legend like Nandan Nilekani himself is associated with this initiative, on the other side, Anand Mahindra himself had all praises for the ONDC initiative. This is expected to be as revolutionary as UPI itself. So keeping aside all the hype, in this episode today, let's try to understand what are the major problems in the market that prompted the government to start the ONDC initiative, how will it promote the small sellers and businesses against giant companies like Amazon and Flipkart, and most importantly, what are the most difficult hurdles that could turn this very same initiative into a flop project. This video is brought to you by Hirect, but more on this at the end of the video. To understand this, the first thing we need to know is why is there even a need for ONDC? Because you see, we already have super high-tech companies who have invested billions of dollars into researching and developing world-class tech for e-commerce in India, right? Then why is the government trying to intervene? Well, there are three specific reasons for that, and all these three reasons come under the canopy of just one factor, which is the abuse of aggregator superpower. So the question is, what are the problems associated with aggregator superpower? Well, this problem comes from the monopolizing model of e-commerce. And since I explained these models 3 months ago, I'm going to explain this again. So if you already remember these e-commerce models, please skip to this timestamp. And if you don't, here's an explanation of the same. In India, there are two important models of e-commerce through which these companies operate. The first model is the inventory model and the second is the marketplace model. The marketplace model is the model wherein there are independent buyers and independent sellers. And the e-commerce company merely acts as a platform to connect them through their website and mobile app. Whereas in the inventory model, the company procures products in massive quantities from the sellers at an ultra cheap rate to sell it directly to the customer. To understand this, let's take the simple example of a bookseller in Flipkart. If a bookseller makes a book at 150 rupees and sells it on Flipkart at 450 rupees, in this case, if Flipkart acts as a platform, it will generate a revenue of 112 to 150 rupees. And this amount also includes packaging and transportation charges. So if you see, this leaves very less scope for profit. But if Flipkart operates with the inventory model, then Flipkart will buy 10,000 books from the bookseller at once, and then it will use its bargaining power to buy it at just 200 rupees. After that, it will keep all these books in its warehouse, eventually to sell it at 450 rupees on the website. So this way, they generate 250 rupees in revenue with a little bit of inventory cost. Therefore, they get 100 rupees extra in revenue even for something as small as books. So when this is done for huge products that cost 10,000 or 20,000 rupees, the revenue difference skyrockets by $1 billion. Therefore, using the inventory model, the e-commerce companies generate way more profit as compared to the marketplace model. So if you see, if an e-commerce platform wants to make money, it by default has to buy products at a dirt cheap cost and then increase its own margins. In case of Amazon, Amazon had two companies called Appareo Retail and Cloudtail. These are nothing but huge sellers through whom Amazon bought its products, stored them and sold them in the market. In fact, there was even an investigative report that stated that Cloudtail and Appareo Retail alone contributed to 35% of the total sales on Amazon India. And they even use these sellers to strike exclusive deals with smartphone companies like Apple, Xiaomi and other tech companies to outplay both smaller players and their rivals. But in 2016, the Government of India came out with a regulation which stated that Amazon and other foreign e-commerce companies cannot use the inventory model and must use the marketplace model to operate in India. So if you're a seller on Amazon, you don't have to worry right now because it's relatively safe to sell on Amazon. And even right now, Amazon and Flipkart both are incredible platforms to build your D2C brand. However, from the government standpoint, it clearly states how e-commerce companies will always find a way to increase their profits. So, there is a dire need to do something to promote micro and small sellers. This is the first reason for the ONDC initiative. The second reason that we all know is nothing but deep discounting. As you all know, 2200 rupees watch is available for 247 rupees, air purifier worth 33,000 is available for 24,000, branded shoes have 60 to 80% discount, and so on and so forth. These literally used to be the prices during Diwali sales, and this directly hurts the brick and mortar stores who are not able to match these deep discounts. So the second reason for ONDC is deep discounting that is hurting the offline commerce economy, which to us it may seem outdated, but from the government standpoint it is an important part of our economy, so the government cannot neglect it. And lastly, we have the imitation game of e-commerce platforms.
Amazon is under investigation in the United States, Europe, and India for alleged anti-competitive practices that hurt other businesses. Amazon.com has repeatedly been accused of knocking off the products of sellers in its marketplace and rigging search results, and exploitation of its vast trove of data to promote its own merchandise at the expense of other sellers.
Long story short, let's say there are 100 sellers who are selling ACs on e-commerce platform called Orchid Cart, and there are 5 slabs of sellers starting from 15 to 20,000, 20 to 25,000, 25 to 35,000, 35 to 50,000 and 50,000 plus. And just like any other product, there are various different colors and certain feature differentiations like Alexa, all-weather setting, and so on and so forth. So when these sellers sell on Orchid will easily know which price range of ACs sell the most, what features do the users like because its algorithm can read through the reviews. They would even know which color of the AC sell the most and which location registers the maximum amount of sales. And lastly, what is the perfect timing for the discount sales. So after reading through this enormous amount of data, Orchid would know that in Pune, white color AC with 25 to 30,000 price range registers the maximum sales with the favorite feature being Alexa. So what this e-commerce company would do is, it would acquire a small AC manufacturing company near Pune and have its warehouse in Pune itself. Then it will give all the specification to this manufacturing company, and while the best selling AC on Orchid sells at 25,000 rupees, Orchid will sell its own AC which is almost exactly same looking as the best selling AC, which is white in color, has an Alexa feature, but will be priced at 23,500 rupees. And cherry on the cake is that it will come with a Orchid bestseller label or Orchid choice label, and it will be listed on top of all other products. And the best part for Orchid is that since their warehouse and maximum sales both happen in Pune itself, they will easily be able to undercut other competitors in terms of delivery fees also. So obviously, considering the price sensitive market of India, people will buy the Orchid choice products instead of other companies' products. In case of Amazon, a Reuters report states that Amazon studied several best-selling brands in India like Louis Philippe, Essentia and John Miller, and they launched their own brand called Symbol. And Symbol even today is such a best-selling brand that there was a time wherein 11 out of the top 25 best-selling formal shirts in the men's category was from Symbol. I'll attach a detailed report for you in the description so that you can read through this investigative report and understand how exactly these e-commerce companies do it. These are the reasons why the government is actually launching the Open Network for Digital Commerce. So let's try to understand how is the government trying to solve this problem using the ONDC initiative. The ONDC is basically a three-legged tool. First is discoverability. The second leg is open protocol for e-commerce platforms and interoperability. And the third leg is price comparison. So let's try to understand each one of these legs using a scenario. Let's start with the first leg, which is discoverability. Today, if you want to shop for a hair dryer, you will either look for it on Amazon or Flipkart. Why only these apps? Because you've downloaded them, you've fed your card and address details in it. So by default, because of this investment that you've made, you will rarely consider the possibility of going elsewhere. And more importantly, if you've got Amazon Prime, then the question of Flipkart also doesn't come into play. But with ONDC, if you look for the term hair dryer, you will see the hair dryers from hundreds of other e-commerce platforms. And here's where you might discover an enterprise like eSamudaya, which is a tech startup that has digitalized your local electronics store in your neighborhood. You can buy a local make hair dryer at dirt cheap cost and even get it delivered within just 2 hours. So in short, you will have a unified search feature wherein you can get the products from all e-commerce sites without having to download them and without having to switch from one site to the other. And this brings us to the second leg, which is interoperability. For this, let's take the simple example of delivery choice. Let's say you want to order dal makhani. Now, when we use Zomato, although Zomato gives us an amazing advantage of getting all the restaurants listed on a single platform, if Zomato decides to charge a high delivery cost, then you can't do anything. And this is because Zomato might have lesser delivery boys in a particular area. And if Zomato does not have any delivery boys in that particular restaurant's area, then you cannot place the order. But with ONDC, even delivery companies will be listed along with aggregators, customers and restaurants. So ONDC will tell you that Zomato's valet are not available, but Dunzo delivery agents are available in that area. So you can place your order through Zomato but have it picked up by Dunzo. Or you can directly ask your Dunzo or any other delivery partner to pick up your order from the restaurant. Similarly, you can place your order through eSamudai, which has all the mom and pop stores listed, and get it delivered by Dunzo. So this way, there is a huge lacuna that the delivery companies can actually fill in, which will further prevent companies like Zomato and Swiggy from monopolizing the delivery space. And lastly, we have the TRIVAGO feature, which is nothing but price comparison.
क्या आपने कभी ऑनलाइन होटल सर्च किया है?
नहीं।
Long story short, if you remember, there was a time when hundreds of websites had hundreds of hotels listed with different prices. So TRIVAGO came in and said that, dude, you choose the hotel and we will list all the prices from all the websites, and then you can choose the most economical option of all. This is exactly what ONDC intends to do for e-commerce. So if Amazon secretly pushes up its prices, you will not be blindsided by Amazon's ecosystem, and you will actually have the opportunity to see other e-commerce companies with a lesser cost. This is how the government intends to empower merchants and consumers by breaking the silos to form a single network to drive both innovation and scale, eventually transforming all the businesses from retail goods, foods to even mobility. And the reason why I'm really looking forward to this project is because this is one of the most complex problems the government has ever solved, and with brilliant minds like Nandan Nilekani sir, it would be very interesting to see how the government actually solves this problem to break the monopolies and duopolies of giant tech companies. And this brings me to the most important part of the episode, and that are the hurdles that the government has to actually overcome in order to make the ONDC initiative successful, and where does my skepticism actually lie. But before we move on, I want to thank our partners Hirect for supporting our content. People, one of the most frustrating things for a job seeker is not finding the right job, but the pressure of looking for a job with endless interviews, dealing with agents, and too much of tedious work to handle, even if they have the right skill sets for the job. But that's where our partners Hirect come in. Hirect is a direct hiring app. So here, you can directly chat with the team leads and HRs without any middlemen or consultants to actually annoy you. And once you create a profile on the app, the algorithm matches your profile with more than 120,000 startups that are hiring on the platform. And it will eventually match you with the relevant job profiles. All you have to do is just click on the special link in the description and download the Hirect app to find your ideal job. Moving on to my points of skepticism, the first thing we need to understand is the fact that the biggest factor for e-commerce companies' success is not their product, but their suitable listing based on consumer preferences. And in our case, we being YouTube creators, we often complain about the fact that the video listings on YouTube is not done equally. As in, mega creators are given way more preference, or entertainment content is recommended way more than educational content. But if you look at it from the perspective of an engineer who's actually working on this problem, if I give you 10,000 videos and I give you only 100 slots to list them, obviously you will list them on the basis of comments, likes and views, right? So the scarcity of screen space itself brings in inequality. Similarly, a seller with maximum reviews, maximum sales will obviously get listed way ahead of the smaller sellers, because when it comes to those sellers, the possibility of sales is way higher. So listing in itself drives inequality. So I don't know how this is going to be tackled by ONDC. Secondly, when price comparison is done like TRIVAGO, on the outside it might look like an amazing idea. But if you look at the fighters in this price war, you will see that we have big companies like Dunzo and Zomato, and on the other side, we've got smaller local aggregator services. Now over here, Zomato or Dunzo would take another $1 billion funding, and it will undercut all its competitors, by which these smaller players will be forced to actually decrease their costs. Eventually, those companies will drain out of cash and then be out of business. So this way, the purpose of price comparison could be defeated if bigger players engage in predatory pricing. And lastly, after all the cash drain that Amazon, Zomato and Swiggy have engaged in, after they have spent thousands of crores with the hope of becoming profitable, now the government itself is actually closing down their avenues of profits, and this could be a disaster. For example, Zomato now cannot open up its own cloud kitchen because it apparently looks like anti-competitive. Zomato has a good chance of making money through delivery because it could use its platform advantage to actually rack up the prices. But now, through ONDC, it might have to compete with Dunzo, so even delivery price has to go down. So at the end of the day, this gold mine of data that Zomato, Swiggy and Amazon like companies have, that's not being unleashed for profit at all. And this creates a paradox. So if these companies run profitably, sellers and restaurants might face losses. But if they don't run profitably, since they have $1 billion funding, the logistics companies and the small aggregators will face losses. And I have no idea how ONDC is going to solve these problems. So if you know the answer to the same, I would love to know about it in the comment section. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. And download the Hirect app to find your ideal job.